Suffering changes people in ways that can't be undone. It leaves invisible scars, reshaping the mind, sharpening instincts, and altering behavior in ways most will never understand. The world sees the external, the calm face, the controlled voice, the meticulous actions, but they don't see the battle underneath. Those who have suffered too much are not like the rest. Their traits are carved from pain, their personalities hardened in the fires of hardship, and their minds conditioned to survive at all costs. Stoicism, an ancient philosophy centered on endurance, discipline, and inner peace, offers a powerful lens to examine the people who have walked through hell and come back with unshakable minds. These individuals carry 5 defining traits that are both their greatest strength and their deepest burden. If you recognize yourself in these, you know what it means to suffer beyond words. And if you don't, consider this a glimpse into the psychology of those who have been broken and rebuilt themselves from the ashes. Let's dive deep. 1. A profound sense of compassion for others, seeing beyond the mask. Suffering opens the eyes to things most people ignore. When someone has gone through unbearable pain, they develop an almost supernatural ability to detect it in others. They see the micro-expressions, the forced smiles, the vacant stares. They hear the tremble in someone's voice that others dismiss as nothing. They know when someone is faking happiness because they've worn the same mask before. This heightened empathy is not just a social skill, it's survival. If you've been through hell, you learn to read people like a book. You understand human suffering so deeply that it's impossible to ignore. It's why many people who have endured severe trauma become protectors, advisors, or even complete loners. They either use their empathy to shield others or withdraw entirely, exhausted by the burden of feeling too much. But there's a cost. The world is cruel to empaths. People see kindness as weakness. They take advantage of those who understand them too well. And the person who has suffered too much often finds themselves drained, carrying the weight of others' pain on top of their own. Stoicism teaches that empathy should be tempered with reason. Feel, but don't drown. Care, but don't let others exploit your compassion. Because in a world full of predators, the most empathetic souls often get devoured first. 2. A mindset of extreme self-reliance. When someone has been let down too many times, they stop expecting help. Hyper-independence is one of the strongest and most dangerous traits of those who have suffered too much. It's the relentless belief that relying on others is a risk, because in the past it led to disappointment, betrayal, or abandonment. Stoicism preaches self-sufficiency, but for those who have endured extreme hardship, it becomes a prison. They do everything alone, not because they want to, but because they have to. Trust is a foreign concept. Delegation feels like an invitation to disaster. Letting someone else take control, that's like handing a loaded gun to a stranger and hoping they don't pull the trigger. But hyper-independence is a double-edged sword. While it breeds resilience, competence, and an unmatched work ethic, it also isolates. It makes relationships difficult, partnerships unbearable, and teamwork feel like a burden rather than a benefit. The mind whispers, "No one will ever do it as well as I can." And so, the person who has suffered too much walks alone, strong, capable, but perpetually exhausted. 3. A self-imposed demand to exceed expectations at all costs. Perfectionism is not about being the best, it's about avoiding failure at all costs. For those who have suffered deeply, mistakes are more than just mistakes. They are proof of inadequacy, reminders of past failures, and warnings of impending disaster. Perfection is a shield against criticism, rejection, and most of all, the haunting fear of being not good enough. Stoicism teaches that external validation is meaningless, but those who have suffered too much often crave it, even if they pretend otherwise. They push themselves to impossible standards, never allowing a moment of rest, because rest feels like an invitation for weakness. The perfectionist mind is ruthless. Every flaw is magnified, every success is dismissed as not enough. No matter how much is achieved, the mind whispers, "You could have done better." This cycle is a prison. It drives excellence, but it also breeds misery. The Stoics remind us that perfection is an illusion, that true mastery comes from accepting imperfection. But for the person who has suffered too much, the battle for perfection is not about mastery, it's about survival, and survival doesn't allow for mistakes. 4. A tendency to keep feelings locked away. To be vulnerable is to risk pain, and those who have suffered too much refuse to risk it again. They build walls, thick and impenetrable. No one gets in easily, not friends, not lovers, sometimes not even themselves. The emotions are there, buried under layers of steel, but expressing them feels dangerous. In the past, emotions were used against them, mocked, dismissed, or punished, so they learned to lock them away. The world sees them as cold or emotionless. But in reality, they feel everything too much. It's just that they've learned to suffocate those feelings before they become liabilities. Stoicism speaks of emotional control, of mastering reactions, and not allowing emotions to dictate actions. But for those who have suffered, this control is not wisdom, it's a defense mechanism. It keeps them safe, but it also keeps them alone. Because when you guard yourself too much, no one can hurt you, but no one can truly love you either. 5. A compulsion to keep everything in order. When life has repeatedly thrown chaos your way, control becomes an obsession. People who have suffered too much hate uncertainty. They plan obsessively, micromanage every detail, and struggle to relax in situations where they aren't in charge. Why? Because chaos has hurt them before. They've seen what happens when things spiral out of control. They refuse to let it happen again. Control is comforting. It provides the illusion of safety, the belief that if everything is planned perfectly, nothing can go wrong. But it's just that, an illusion. Stoicism teaches that control is a lie, that the only thing we truly own is our mind and our reactions. But tell that to someone who has suffered too much. They know the world doesn't care about their philosophy. They know that sometimes the only way to survive is to control everything in their power. But control comes at a cost. It breeds anxiety, exhaustion, and the inability to let go. The person who needs control is never at peace because peace requires surrender, and surrender is something they can't afford. The Stoic path forward. These traits, the heightened empathy, the hyper-independence, the perfectionism, the emotional guarding, the need for control, are both armor and burden. They are the scars left by suffering, the lessons etched into the soul through hardship. They are what kept you standing when the world tried to break you. They forged resilience, sharpened awareness, and built a mind that sees beneath the surface. But they also weigh you down. The same walls that keep pain out also keep warmth from coming in. The same vigilance that protects you can also imprison you. Stoicism teaches that true strength is found in balance, to feel without breaking, to be independent without isolating, to strive without self-destruction, to guard without suffocating, to control what matters and release what doesn't. It is not about being emotionless. It is about mastering your emotions, allowing them to exist without being ruled by them. It is not about rejecting connection. It is about choosing relationships that align with your values, not ones that demand your suffering. For those who have suffered too much, the hardest lesson is this: you don't have to suffer forever. Pain was your teacher, but it is not your identity. The world may have given you every reason to harden, to close off, to live in a perpetual state of readiness for the next blow. But strength is not just about enduring hardship. It is about knowing when to put the weight down. Pain made you who you are, but it doesn't have to define who you become. Growth begins when you decide that your past no longer holds the reins of your future. The path forward is not about forgetting your suffering. It's about transcending it. It's about using what you've learned to build something better, something freer, something lighter. The scars remain, but they do not dictate your path. The mind that once braced for battle can also learn to rest. The heart that once feared vulnerability can learn to open, not recklessly, but wisely. The Stoic path is not about being invulnerable. It's about being unshakable. Not because you feel nothing, but because you have learned to stand firm no matter what comes. Strength is not in suffering. Strength is in rising beyond it. Thank you for watching. If you want to see more videos, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. I'll see you in the next one.